This week's episode, we are going to be talking about
Before you even start a business.
before you even start a business. So, essentially, the crux of this episode is all about if you are looking, thinking, considering starting up a new business, any business,
Or
Matt.
even have started a business and maybe just thought, oh, that sounds good, I'm going to go try that. Cool,
So,
let's go.
let's go. Right, another episode of Matt and Roddy chat. I won't say the
Well,
word.
business today.
More business chat following off from the last couple of episodes that we've had. We are now at episode, believe it or not, 7.
Whoa, season 1, episode 7. Nice.
Yeah. We're saying that unless we start from January 22, it's season 1, episode 2.
Well, this will be season 2. Season 2, episode 2.
Season 2, episode 2. Season 1 was like a pilot. No, all right, okay. So, welcome, Matt and Roddy. Chatting shit, anything from business to
Bullshit.
and yeah. This week's episode, we are going to be talking about drum roll.
Before you even start a business.
Before you even start a business. So, essentially, the crux of this episode is all about if you are looking, thinking, considering starting up a new business, any business, Matt.
Or even have started a business and maybe just thought, oh, that sounds good, I'm going to go try that. So it kind of like segues from, I suppose, our entrepreneur kind of episode that we did a little bit of a while back, and just to maybe give some people some steering points on, and just to reiterate to people, if they listen the first time, they haven't listened to any of the other stuff, is that we're not one of these or two of these guys that are peddling their wares or their shit or anything like that. We're actually in the game, building our thing, right in the middle of developing from that, 6 to 7 figure thing, which, from speaking to a lot of people who are very successful, is actually probably the hardest part to go from that 6 to 7 figures. So we're in the game, we're working it, we're developing assets around our business in order to hit that swell up to that 7-figure business. So it's not like we're chatting from a theoretical or theorist point of view, or having done it, you made all your millions, and now you're just telling people how fucking easy it is and how great you are and all that kind of stuff, which seems to be the trend, to be fair. You do get, I do listen to a lot of people like you Rob Moores and all that kind of stuff, and not pigeonhole Rob, because I've always liked a lot of his content and stuff like that, but it's all from an angle of I've succeeded, blah, blah, blah. And there's just very little for, I think personally, there's very little for that person that's in the game and they just want to get to that kind of next level. But you can't get to the next level before you actually hit the first level, which is actually getting something going. So I'll start off with like the first tip for before you've even started a business. And then we'll throw this one around because I know you'll have loads of ideas on this one, is making sure that there is a market or people actually want the shit that you want to start.
Yeah.
This
Definitely.
was, so, it might be great that you want to sell, I don't know, widgets from World of Warcraft or whatever, but is it solving a problem? Do people want it? Have you done a market test? Would be really where I start before. And I'm quite kind of in this at the moment because I'm just about to start something that's not really been done before, and I'm in that kind of, how do I mitigate the downside while protect, how do I get upside but protect the downside on trying something new and seeing where the market's going to adopt it and all this kind of stuff, which is a real challenging piece.
Yeah, there's got to be what I call it, like a discovery phase, right? You've pulled an idea together, and you put a load of ideas together, and you kind of choose one you think, right, okay, I'm going to run with that. Then it's like some people just are like, right, okay, I'm going to run with that, and that's it. And then when you talk about sort of market research, it's easy to go to friends and family first, but what you will find 99.9% of the time is they'll support you but they'll give you the emotional feedback of, yeah, go on, you can do it, it's a great idea, rather than being honest and upfront.
Or they'll do the opposite.
Or they'll do the opposite.
Or they'll do the opposite and go, "That shit, that's never going to work." Which is,
yeah.
But both are valuable feedback. Both is a valuable side of the coin.
Yeah, you're right. It is valuable, but at the same time, it can mislead in terms of, number one, it can put you down and stop you from day one if it's negative, or it can lead you through a journey that is based on, oh well, if everyone else is saying that it's going to work, it's going to work, when essentially it's just people's opinions of either backing you up or people's opinions of putting you down. It's not necessarily the ideal answer to whether you push ahead and actually do it. So when you're talking about kind of market research, stress testing, being in a discovery mode, you need to plan it out and structure it and strategize in terms of going, well, how can I really test this out, and how can I really go at it knowing that if I put all the processes and I put everything I need to put in place and work my bollocks off to get it going, is it going to work based on the market and like you said, the problem that you solve? And people lose that reality in terms of actually knowing whether it's going to work or not. And also, when we talk about that, the value of it and the proposition that you're offering in comparison to maybe the cost that you feel you can get and the profit margin and everything else. Again, it's about kind of stress testing that, right, Matt?
And it's actually an easy way to do it. And I've done this over sort of multiple projects, some that because of the feedback I've not generally gone ahead with, and then some that's gone, okay, let's move to this next stage of iteration, or let's see if we can move this a little bit further the way we want to go. But I suppose it's the entrepreneur's curse, isn't it? That you wake up and you're like, oh yes, let's do this. I want to go, and you run 100 mile an hour in that direction, or you've got your ladder up against the wall and you don't even know if it's the right wall. So okay, so here's some, I suppose, practical points for being able to stress test your idea. And lo and behold, they're very, very simple. It's about identifying who your initial target market is going to be. So you hear all this niche stuff and all this kind of stuff. And I do think that like niche is very, very important. But I think in the early days, sometimes you don't develop a niche because, or sometimes you can't find the niche that you need to niche to. So you kind of have to step back a couple of levels before. So if you're going to create a product for, I don't know, a single female vegan who, I don't know, will only travel the world on carbon neutral, you're going to start a travel company for a female vegan carbon neutral sourcing single woman. It's so super niche that maybe you need to come out a little bit, because serving that one kind of, it's going to be fairly difficult to go find that individual and be able to get relevant feedback in your iterative or creative process. It's going to be so difficult. So, maybe you start out with, in this instance, vegan female, maybe you bracket that down to maybe 20 to 30s, if they're 20 to 30s or whatever it is, no kids, single vegan female. And then you kind of iterate from there.
So don't define it too much where it's just completely difficult.
But you've got to put yourself in almost like the epicenter of the customer base that you're looking to find, but not so niche. Like, for example, you could go onto Facebook and you could find a rare 50p. I know because I've done this. Rare 50p collectors Facebook group. Like you could go and find some people who get an absolute chub on for rare 50p's. I mean, you can't think of anything more boring. Well, if there's 50 odd thousand members in this 50p collectors, then you've got a real large pool of people to pick from. If you're going to go and pick another coin, maybe like a 5p, to find out what they find interesting about that 50p and why they're in there in the first place. So you can go into, vegan female groups on Facebook and just the way that I did it was obviously it's one about vegan females, but I went into where my audience were at its broadest sense and asked a few key questions of would people mind asking and me answering them a few questions just for some market research. And funny enough, people are really happy for you to reach out for them. And as long as you've got very good question and questioning abilities, you're able to actually source down quite easy as to what information you need out of them to find out whether this thing's going to work. Or it might even steer you on a different path, which goes, okay, well, actually, I didn't think of that. Or what I thought was your problem actually isn't. This is your problem, because they actually think that, even though you're quite set that it's going to solve this problem, it actually solves a very different problem, but it's still relevant to the marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. Like, because people can discover stuff while they're discovering, if that makes sense. So it's like, come up with the idea, back it because you feel that there is maybe a problem there that you can solve, but let your market tell you whether that is a real. Funny enough, like again, from the many books that I read all the time, and the one that I've literally been reading recently is about saying, well, if it does your product or service, is it a vitamin or is it a painkiller? Because so many people start up a business based on their product or service being a vitamin, being a nice to have, being something that you can have but you can't live without, or does it actually kill a pain point? And that's what makes it saleable, marketable. That's what makes it tangible as a problem solver, or as it says, a painkiller. So absolutely. So like, just reviewing on what you said then is ultimately stress testing.
Yeah, and as much of it as possible, you can't do enough. I don't think you can't do enough. Well, no, you can, because you can get trapped in paralysis of question. There's got to be a point where you pull the trigger, but really the trigger's already been pulled with, if you're going after it aggressively in terms of market research, and you're probably going to need to speak to a good 100 people in the cross section of people that is going to be your target market. But I appreciate as well that there can be a multiple target market for who you're going for. For example, I don't know, you want to make some dog accessories or something along those lines. Well, dog accessories are, one, they're big business, and they're two, generally all dogs. So that's where you can start. But if you know that you've got a particular passion for Shih Tzus or whatever, because you understand the brand, you understand how they operate, you understand that, and you're going down that, then you wouldn't necessarily start with dog owners. You would start with Shih Tzu dog owners, and you then sort of obviously work out from there, because you've then taken that broad niche of dog owners down to a particular breed that you already understand. But then it's about finding out the problems and solutions to what you have on offer as to whether people are going to pay for it. People are going to actually part with money because they see value in what you have offering, and then understanding, is what you're offering a pain point, is it, or is it a vitamin? Is it this is going to stop my dog from getting stolen, which is a massive pain point right now, or is this going to make my dog look really nice and pretty, and I buy it a fucking jumper, or is this actually? It's quite
coincidental that you say that, because I was watching Dragon's Den UK the other day, and this couple came on with this doggy bag. It's like a satchel or like a bum bag kind of thing that you have specifically for dog owners, right? Dog walkers. And it had everything. It had like a section where you put your poop bag, and it had all the compartments, the bells and whistles, specifically for when you go out walking your dog.
I bet they got absolutely obliterated and no one invested.
Yeah, well, actually, I think someone invested, but only because of the personality pitching. One of the dragons in the UK one is like a home shopping, TV shopping woman, and she's like, you do really well to sell this to the older demographic, to like your 50 plus. But then you've got the younger one, Stephen Bartlett, for example, the new dragon, who's got a dog, but he's also like, what did he say? He goes, I'm a single man looking for a girlfriend, wearing one of these
Yeah, yeah.
no chance. Like,
But for like the 60-year-old plus that's got it, because she then took that broader, that she took that niche, and she made it from dog owners to now I'm a 60-year-old dog owner. Forgetting to take out my bags and all this.
Literally, it was pinpointing that
Yeah.
audience during that process and going, well, okay, that might not work for, however old, 26, 27, 30, I can't remember, younger generation, because the design didn't work. And then also, which was quite funny, they go, well, have you got any competitors? And they started off the pitch with, we've been all over the internet trying to find something that is custom made, that we could do this, that, and the other every time we take the dog out. There's a section there for the bag, section there to put the used bag in, section there for water or whatever it did. And they were like, there's no one else that does it. So then when they said, well, who's your competition? She's like, well, no one. But then again, Steve Bartlett was like, well, actually, when I go out, I take a bag. So essentially, competition's any bag.
The bag,
in the
yeah.
world that you use.
Or if you've got combat bottoms on, or if you've got a hoodie with the front.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's them. And again, when you're thinking about starting a business and you're going through this discovery mode, you've got to be real with yourself and think, actually, the wider competition, or what are people doing to solve this problem at the moment, or to live with this problem at the moment? Because unless you find something really, really specific with an absolute pain point, people are living their lives without it at the moment. So
that's actually a good place to start, is to actually seeing things that already exist and making them better. Things like, Dyson, for one, looked at what Hoover were doing and thought, well, that's shit, let's make something a lot better, or you can probably you can choose a load of different people that have taken something and just made it so much better.
Just improved it. And then you've got that market there. And then again, it's a case of seeing, well, if you could do it this way, would that work for you? Would that be something that you would go with? So
okay, so what would be your next tip for someone who's like either thinking of starting or just got started, which is a definite must point? Because I think like we got maybe slightly different views on what comes where, which actually is good for debate. But what would be your next?
So let's say you've done all your stress testing, right? And you're at a point where you're like, right, okay, let's go ahead with it. Let's start this business.
So what we'll do it on 3. What would be your next thing? We'd go 1, 2, 3, then say what comes next and see whether we agree or not.
Hang on. All right, hang on a second.
Okay. So just to be clear, let's say it's a product or whatever. Just to be clear, so now we've stress tested it. We know that it's viable, and they've got said thing tangibly. Yeah. Okay. So whatever comes next is on 3. Ready?
All right, if it's a product, okay. Cool.
Okay, or whatever. So, ready?
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Sales.
Prototype.
No, they've got it. They've already got it.
All right. Okay. In that sense, well, yeah. If you've got a prototype already, without doubt, you need to start selling it.
Yeah.
Like any business needs here's a story, right? Any business that let me start again. We had a business advisor, a business coach come in once at a previous job that I was in, and he did a quadrant, right? He did 4 things. I might have told you this before, right? He did a quadrant, and he said he put obviously one thing in each one of these quadrants, and it was customers, people, data, technology. And he asked us to then say, how do we prioritize our business? Basically, every business needs these 4 things. How do we prioritize the way we think? Now, obviously, we were an established business and we were trying to tweak stuff and change processes and change a mindset and everything else. And that's the whole idea why we hired this guy. And it's funny because obviously I was in the room with an operations director who is very analytical. instantly he was like, data. That's it. Like, we need, without the data, we can't go out and do this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Instantly, I'm from a biz dev sales background. I'm like, customers.
Yeah.
And then the guy was like, "You're absolutely like customers. You're like there is no business without customers.
No.
The whole idea of setting up a company is customers.
Yeah.
Because in any form, whether they're a client,
but that's that's why he's an ops manager and not an entrepreneur.
He's dealing with the afterwards, the after part when you've got the customers on, but without customers. And incidentally, then, if we talk about the third thing, which we'll go into, is got to be people, staff, right? Which we'll talk about. But yeah, you're 100% right. Sales, without being able to sell a product or bring on a client, then you don't have a business.
Well, the reason why I sort of said that is because obviously I'm biased in that means because I'm in the direct sales industry. Network marketing is all about sales, even though we bring people on that aren't salespeople, so well, they don't think they are, but they actually are, in one way, shape or form, because everybody is, you got to sell your kids on going.
Here's the thing, and we could literally finish off this whole podcast on sales, because it is the most fearful thing for anyone starting up a business, without doubt. Once you've got a product, or you're good at a service, or you're you've got experience in something, hence why, I don't know, people go freelance, or people do start a business because they've come up with an idea, they create a product, etc. Sales is probably the most scariest and unknown thing, but I think that's a stigma on the word sales and what people.
But I also think that people
what sales is.
Oh, definitely, there's definitely a stigma on sales, but I think sort of gone are the days of the vision, I suppose, of the secondhand car salesman, that kind of thing, or the high pressure tactics and all that kind of stuff. Actually, some of the best people I know are in MLM and direct sales, because the way that I suppose the way that we sell versus over how other people sell is that generally you're selling from a point of authentic product use that you're really happy with, and then the sale is organic. So if someone's coming to see me and they're telling me that, I don't know, we'll just use overweight as an example, I'll be like, oh my god, this is, and I'll just bring up a picture of one of my clients or one of my guys and go, this is what they've been doing, and I'll tell the story of how they've done what they've done. And if you want the same results as this person, then this is how much the plan is, and this is what you get. Let's get you started, and it's just a very natural way of, and sales can be natural, but I think they become unnatural if the person that's doing the selling doesn't either believe that they're solving the problem for the person that's in front of them, or they just generally don't either use or have any kind of their own emotional attachment to what they're selling.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there are ways of selling, and like from each end of the scale. Now, I know I've been in a room, a sales boiler room, with a load of egos, a load of arseholes, a load of closers, dealers, cocky arsehole salespeople. But then I've also been with business owners that are very introvert, that naturally you ask them about sales and they'll cringe and they'll say, no, I don't know how I've done this, or I don't know what, but they've still got a business. They've still built an income, built a lifestyle out of not being a salesperson. But they still have clients, they still have customers, so they still have something there that is ultimately sale. And when we talk about this, and we do it in a way of trying to give value, right, and trying to give tips on starting a business, and for anyone out there that is thinking of starting a business and has that product or that service or that problem solved, that niche, whatever it is, sales can be different mindsets, and it can be different. There are so many different approaches to how to sell your brand, how to sell your product, how to sell your business. And I think in terms of looking at giving value to this audience listening, what tips would you give for or advice,
Oh,
or just general kind of information that you could give to that person listening now that's thinking, right, okay, I'm going to start a business. I've got my service product. How do I sell it?
For me, for sales is all built on relationships, and the thing is that relationships take time. So people who want to rush the process, get people closed, unless you're on like even now, if I was going to go and, I don't know, sell, I love, I don't know, Ferrari or Lamborghini or Mercedes or whatever, if I was going to go and like work as a Mercedes sales rep or whatever, I would like, I think for me, it's funny because I always start with the customer. So depending on where the customer is where I meet them. You always meet them where they are. So it doesn't matter if someone's coming in and they say to me, hey, look, I'm just shopping or whatever, or I'm just looking. Then great, good, because I'm not selling. It's not about it. It's about, what questions have you got? Have you been to look at something else and all this kind of stuff. But it's being able to shorten the gap to building a relationship as quickly as possible, so that the minimum is that you leave them feeling good about you leave them good feeling about the brand, and you leave them good feeling about, if there's a product in there, even if they're gonna say no. So even if you lose the sale there and then, if you've left a good impression, then the universe is a weird thing. You have this, I have people coming back to me all the time because I left them feeling good about themselves, the brand, and me. That was the one I missed out, actually, feeling good about themselves, feeling good about the brand, and feeling good about me. That I've had people come back years and years later when the time's been right for them. So where my business is concerned, that is, I have, I suppose it's for sale, a business opportunity, and I have a product that's for sale. So it's meeting them where they are. Are they in the right place at the right time for them to actually either part with money for the product that we've got on offer? And it's meeting them where they are is, I think, is probably the biggest point of entry. I think people go and look at sales with the close in mind, rather than, is why are you here in the first place? What is it that is what's brought you here?
Absolutely, like thinking about them and thinking about the customer and who they are, and don't make it all about you, make it about them.
Mm-hmm. I've got a phrase that I train the guys on, which is fix the problem in front of you. So if someone's come in because they want to lose 2 stone, let's fix that. Let's put everything else gets parked. How are we going to do this for you? Because this is what you want out of this engagement. This thing. Don't go showing them all the rest of the products, something like that. So it's the equivalent of coming in and saying, I'm thinking about buying an A class. Well, you won't go and show them an E class. You wouldn't try and show them the whole, you would give them what they want. So you fix the problem that's in front of you. At a later date, if they decide, now actually I'm thinking of starting a family, I want a saloon or whatever, then that's where you would fix that problem. But the moment you have that person, you understand, what can I do for you? Listen. That's the key thing, is you should be speaking less than you should be speaking less than they are, for sure, listening more than they are. And it comes back to the asking great questions. Like sales is all about asking great questions until you get to a point where, say, okay, so I've heard what you've said, so what I'm hearing is, and you reiterate what they've already said to you. So, do you want to lose 2 stone, all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Here's how we do it. And then you lead them by the hand and show them, here's how we're going to do it. And it's as simple as, and that is your close. Let's get you started to do this. It's X, Y, or Z price. And
I think, you're 100% right. And I think that certainly comes from your experience, because you're in a relationship game, right? As am I. And I do think, and it's funny because I have had these conversations with people where they might sell. And this is something, again, for anyone listening to think about, is the product or service that you're selling, based on price, could be something that people will just buy in immediately, or it will be a considered purchase, usually based on the cost of what you're selling, right? As well as the fact that, let's say you're selling some product or service at a very low price point that is all about numbers game. It's not about volume. It's about volume, and you could sell as many as you can because people can make that decision straight away. If you're selling something at 99p, you should be getting the answer the first time you speak to someone. If you're selling something that is a monthly subscription, then, or at a very high price point, then it becomes a considered purchase. Therefore, the relationship becomes more and more important because of that. You're absolutely right in terms of saying about listening. There's a cliche saying, selling is not telling. It's about listening. And the only way you can listen is by asking the right questions, asking the open questions, asking the one thing that makes all this work when you're asking questions is why. I can ask you a question like, okay, why are you here today? I'm here to buy a car. Okay, why do you need a car? Why do you need and that answer could be, because my car's too small for the family. Okay, why do you need a bigger car? Because it's small. It's big for your family, but why else would you need that? Where do you go? What do you use your car for? Asking these questions, like figuring out all these things just by asking why, asking what, asking how,
Really powerful questions. What have you done before?
Yeah.
What have you had before? What have you tried before?
Why doesn't your old product service work?
Yeah, why has it not worked for you?
Yeah, because and that's it. You're putting the pain on the customer and finding out.
But they have to think to answer as well. They have to think, and it puts them in a place of, I suppose it puts them back to their pain point, because they're in for a new car because they've been shouted out at work 3 days a week for their car breaking down, and the car's broken down again.
Yeah.
There's only so it's not actually the fact that the car breaking down, it's the consequence of the car breaking down that's really pissing them off. It's the fact that the kids are screaming and all this kind of stuff. They're late for school, you're late for work, you're getting bollocked. So actually it's not you need a new car, it's the fact that it's the consequences of having a car that doesn't work and that's not reliable, which is the pain point.
Yeah. And even what you're saying about relationships, regardless of whether someone is buying something small or they're buying a considered purchase, the only way someone is going to depart with their money and transact with that person is if they like and trust them. And that comes through rapport building and through relationships, right? Because if I go in and buy something small, I don't know, I go to Halfords and buy an auto part, right? Something for the car, and I don't like the person talking to me, or the guy's rude, or whatever. Because I'm talking from experience, because I went in and there was a guy who, number one, I had to call him over and he was just there playing on his phone. Number two, when he did come over, I needed to know what headlight model I needed, and he was just like, I don't know, and he started like, he just literally didn't have any skills at all when it comes to customer service. I was like, oh, forget this. Like, I literally was like, where else? It just so happened that it is the only bloody place around that I could get something. So I went to go and speak to someone else, and he was a lot more helpful, and then I bought it. But like, I didn't buy off that guy. Now, I don't know whether they're both on commissions or whatever to sell.
With his attitude, you would probably suggest no.
Yeah, exactly.
He's getting his £8.40 or whatever it is an hour, and that's it.
And and like, even there was, I've heard this story of, like, let's say there's, and this is crucial as well in selling, is not only in selling, but also knowing who the type of audience that you want to deal with, whether it's a long-term client or whether it's just a transaction. But there's a story I heard where 2 carpet stores open up exactly the same day. Okay, and it's the difference between what we call tactical selling and strategical selling. Tactical selling is a short term, it's like close the deal, sell the product, that's it. Strategical selling is all about the long-term gain, and being strategic in how you do it. So let's call it carpet shop A was based around tactical selling, and everything was, as soon as a client comes in, they just talk about the product. Carpet shop B was strategic, where they wouldn't talk about the product, they would sell the store. they would sell the owner, the reason why he got into it, why they exist, what they're about, how they can help, what their after sales is like. They you know, the story. They sold the story, and within this story, Carpet Shop B had 10, 15 different stores open up and thrived, and Carpet Shop A didn't really go anywhere, ended up shutting down because people were loyal to that story, that brand. They felt like they weren't there just to be sold to.
Yeah.
They were there to understand the origins, how, you know, the people they were dealing with. They felt like they weren't being sold to.
It comes down to facts tell, stories sell.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to, and that's kind of what I was getting to with what I was saying about, you know, if I'm going to go and if someone's going to come to me for a product or whatever, I'm going to tell them a story of someone who's done what they want to do, because not only is it social proof, but I'm giving them a visual I'm giving them a visual path to their end step, because, you know, I sell a lot of things that are intangible, you know, or I suppose subjective.
Yeah, they're not something that you transact and take away the shiny thing that you can go and use.
No, really, what they're buying is 90 days away if they stick to what they've been told to do. You know, so you're selling the intangible, which is often that, you know, it's not like walking into a Mercedes dealership and driving out in a new AMG. You know, you're buying it; it's there and then. You know, you're I suppose they're paying for the goodwill of that. This will be delivered based on me adhering to some principles. 90 to 120 days time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so I suppose advice to anyone that is going out to now sell a product or service, in my opinion, would be create some stories behind who you are, what you represent, what you're, because it isn't just about the problem that solves, it's the person that they're dealing with. So how can you resonate and grow a network of customers that trust you, and figure out, yes, you want to tell them, obviously go through the pain points and the solutions that this product or service that you have provides, but what you also want to do is build that trust and share with them who you are, because that's who they're dealing with, and that will help with the trust of actually selling that product or service.
Well, a big piece of advice would be fine, like, because if you're just about to start a business or you launch a product or whatever, then one would be, don't quit your job too soon as well. You know, make sure this is literally from, you know, 6 to 8 a.m. type thing, and then, you know, I don't know, 6 to 11 p.m. kind of jive going on. And, you know, maybe it be that you have to move sideways in your job to go into a sales role. So like, if you've got a job and you know there's a sales department, then I would be like, get me in that sales department so I can learn some stuff and learn some skills and understand how it works. Or, you know, leave the job that you're in it for a sales
or even for an industry that relates with your product or service, right?
Yeah, so but like, it has to be the skill set of sales that they're able to work amongst and practice, you know, based on, because this comes down to, you know, I suppose reducing the downside of going, because, you know, if you can if you can sell, then you'll never be on the streets, you know. You know, because it's such a fundamental skill, and skills can be learned.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's, but then there are some occasions where people will not be able to move into a job of that aspect. And in that sense, there is so much information out there through books,
online courses,
knowledge,
all that kind of stuff.
And again, I suppose that falls into another tip of, regardless, whether it's anything that you need to start your business that you need to brush up on, spend the time to learn and train, like, and like put it into, whether you have to wake up an extra hour in the morning or you have to give up a TV program or something activity that you do in the evening, or if you spend your lunchtime during your work hours, if you took an hour every day and dedicated it with like full on discipline to training yourself in an area that's gonna get you to where you need to go with this business that you want to start, then you will get there so much quicker.
I mean, I'd go as far as to say, and because I am biased, and I love the industry that I'm in, is I would, if someone came to me and they say, what piece of advice would you give? Because I want to have my own business, do this kind of stuff. I would say, go and work in a network marketing company around your current commitments. I would say, go and join a network marketing company.
And that's your training. That is your training right there, right?
Because they are trained better than we are trained, and we train people better than any other industry, hands down, because of the customer, even, and bear in mind, you've got to find a good network marketing company that's going to do this. But the customer retention, follow-up, reorders, referrals, upgrades, strategy, structure, pillars of your business, personal development, how to speak on stage, how to eloquently communicate, the product and offering that you've got, how to track inventory, how to look after your profit, how to run an event, all of that stuff is absolute gold dust, to the fact that if I need to go and start all over again, I've got irreplaceable skills from being in that industry. And that's whether it's a plug for network marketing, I don't care, but because it served me really fucking well.
Even if the point you make as well, in terms of you've just ran off a load of different stuff there, right?
Yeah, off the top of my head as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, it can be quite daunting when people are like, "Oh my god, I got all this to do," but it will come. You don't have to do it. And again, it's a case of just taking one or two of those things. Some of those things people will already be good at. People will have a talent for numbers, so they'll be fine with the books and the finance, but they might not be fine with speaking in front of a crowd, right? Just the same as sales. You won't be good at you'll either be very confident in sales or networking or meeting new people, or you won't. And it's about being create a list and just go, right, okay, here's all the things that I'm not good at, here's all the things that I'm quite comfortable with.
But the things that you aren't good at, you get good at. I mean, I was on stage in front of 2,500 people for most of the day on Saturday, this weekend. And when I first started, I was shaking like a shitting dog. I thought they'd give me a vibrating microphone. But over time,
you get good at it.
Exactly. Or you get better at the things that you weren't so good at. So then you can then put across, the more you know something, or the more skilled you become by practicing, just iteration or whatever. The things that once felt difficult or that you shit your pants about become really easy. And now people go, fucking hell, you're so natural up there. You're so
That's because I've experienced the same thing, and that's it
for 10 years.
So that again, that is a specific tip right there. Is really understand that jump into a learning curve knowing that there is a difficult period, but it's going to get better.
And Gary V says it, doesn't he? He's like, you've got to be prepared to eat shit and just embrace the suck. I think that's what he calls it. Embrace sucking at a load of stuff to start with until you start to get better. And then the stuff that you start getting better at, you then start to bring in other skills and what have you that, you're now quite good at this, but you're absolutely shit at this. So then you start getting better at that.
It's the exact same thing in anything, right? To run a business of any kind of success, or even just a business that survives these days is successful, right? Because we all know 80% die within the first 2 years, blah, blah, blah. There's stats everywhere for it. But it's about knowing that there are only a handful of things that you have to do, but you have to just keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. So let's say, for example, you decide that the best route to selling your product is by networking, right? Going to networking groups. And then the alternative could be picking up the phone and cold calling. Now, either way, one of those two things might be easier than the other for you, for your personality, for your experience, etc. When you pick one of them though, and you find it difficult, but you know you have to do it, just keep doing it. Just because it's gonna get, like you said, like even if it's like public speaking, right? And you have to go out there and you have to put a presentation together. Do it in front of two people that your closest friends or your family. Just do it in front of them. Do it in front of yourself. Do it in front of a camera. And just pretend that camera is 100 people. Pretend that camera is one person.
Practice and preparation actually it like undoes 90% of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really does.
The
rest
problem
is
with
just in your head.
The problem with practice and preparation is the key ingredient to it is discipline. And that is the thing that people will go out and get training. They'll either, you could watch a video, read a book, go to a training course, go to a workshop, go to a seminar. They'll come away and they'll feel like, oh yeah, that's what I need to do. But then they don't do it because of the lack of discipline.
It's too hard. Everybody wants the end step. Everybody wants the
destination, not the journey,
the lifestyle and the whatever. But they don't want to embrace looking stupid, sucking at this, getting up early, going to bed late, all of the stuff that leads you and actually fundamentally 10 years later puts you in that that 7-figure bracket or 8-figure bracket or whatever, is that they're too busy looking around trying to get lucky at things that aren't going to get, rather than actually building something. And Andy Frisella says this a lot. I haven't listened to him much recently, but he used to have a podcast called the MFCEO Project that was really good. And it was basically just attacking the snowflake generation in that, guys, and I heard Naval, I listened to a lot of Naval Ravikant's stuff, and he was saying, look, I want to be in a long-term game with long-term players. I want to be in a long-term game with long-term players. So you put that in, I want to be in a long-term business with long-term people, that are playing the same game. I don't want to be in like a 1 year, I want to be an influencer. The next year I'm going to start an Amazon fulfilled by Amazon, and next year I'm going to do this, or I'm going to rather than just like going, and that's what I'm actually, I suppose, quite proud of myself, because I'm only now 10 years. Yes, I've invested in other stuff along the way, but not that's taken my time. So it's only now 10 years in, when my existing business is solid, that I'm looking at, okay, so how do we take this monetary value and skills value that I've got to be able to put into another entity,
or expand on what you're doing and increase the way you're doing it and stuff.
To build out all the other assets.
But then if you look at what you've done in terms of over those 10 years, in terms of repeating, so like you get over that learning curve of talking. Now you can just go up there and do it.
Business is boring as fuck. If you're doing business right, it's boring as fuck. But the payoff, and because you have to do all the shit things over and over and over and over, like the basics over and over, is what produces what people see on Instagram, and they don't get that. That just that boring fucking shit that you have to do every day. So whether that is like the highest CEO right the way. Now don't get me wrong, like you have some wicked fun like while you're doing it. Not every day isn't boring as fuck, but you don't get to the wicked fun part until you're actually making some fucking money and actually getting some decent revenue.
If you look at you ask anyone that is what they deem successful in a business or is running a profitable business, ask them if they'll go back into employment. Every single one of them would be like, I'm unemployable. I would never go back into it,
because that's triple boring as fuck.
But you don't get anything out the end of it either.
No, but people are prepared to actually go do that rather than take a step down and have and just eat the shit or whatever for so many years in order to actually come out with something substantial, or build it around actually the day job that they fucking loathe, because they want it tomorrow or the next day. But the problem is that 10 years passes anyway. 10 years is going to pass anyway. So it's either, you keep in your job and you build something on the side that you stick to and that you can sustain. Or, you just where you were 10 years later with probably, I don't know, inflation eating away at your savings and not being on a higher salary.
So the tip is be prepared to put the effort in, walk the tightrope, go through boring stuff, learning curves, but the rewards are so much more better at
If
the
you've
end of it.
tested your product and you know that the market actually wants it,
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Otherwise it will just fall flat on your face.
yeah, and your ladder ends up against the wrong wall, and you've wasted, years trying to do. You can carve up, like you can compress a year's work into less than 90 days to figure out whether this thing is right for the marketplace, and then get the basic. You've got to be able to get it right. Do they want it? Yeah. Do they want it enough to pay for it? Yeah. So, i.e., sales. So unless people have actually exchanged money for what you've got, then they don't want it because
that is part of the stress test. Is not like being able to sell that product. If you can sell it 2 or 3 times, then you can sell it 4, 5, and 6.
Mm-hmm. And that's outside of your immediate mum, dad, brother, sister.
Yeah.
They don't count.
Yeah.
Can you sell it to a stranger? Will a stranger buy it?
Yeah, they're not. It's not a an emotional buy or where they feel sorry for you and they're just
a pity purchase.
A pity purchase. Yeah,
pity purchases do not count.
Go and test it against people that you feel are going to be your audience, and if you've got enough of those audience, then you can scale it.
100%. Do you know what I reckon? We should park it there and go and do a part 2 at next week or a later date or whatever.
I think we do it next week. I think we talk more about them where you are once you've started that business and you're up and running, and you've sold a few, and you're at a point where. Because do you know? I know that crossover between when you're working in a job and you're doing really well and putting your grind in and your 12-hour shifts in your work at home. Where's the cut-off point? Then how do you take it to that next level? And I think that'd be
because our journeys are two almost completely different. So we can chat about that as well next week, and how you then segued to the chaos that is like now.
Cool. Yeah. All right. So that ends it on starting
a cliffhanger
or thinking of business. Yeah. And then next week we'll go into stepping it up a little bit more in terms of where you would get to once you start selling your service and product.
Sweet.
Cool, man.
Or groovy.
That was a good one.